We're not born with knowing everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that you have not tried that I bet you if you did, it would be part of you now. But because you're always just doing what other people want you to do, you're always just going here because they want you to go. You're always saying this because they want you to say that, because you think that's what they're gonna like to hear. You're never branching out and experimenting on the things that would actually make you happy, that would actually make you whole. Hello and welcome to the 2D podcast. I am your host, Adonnis Barrera, and I am joined as always by the lovely and sensational Ianna Giselle Backlit Alhambra.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing today, Ianna?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We're kicking off this podcast pretty late.
Yes.
Normally we record on a Sunday,
Yes.
and we're doing it on a Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
Going up
on a Tuesday.
Which is so funny because I don't have a segue for this. But
okay.
I do want to get started on Rate the Date. And just to paint y'all the picture, what day was this? Was this on a Thursday? Yeah, it was on a Thursday because we had the Friday off.
Yes.
The very next day, and this is the Labor Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we had that Thursday off. So we were going to do something, just to go out. I didn't have a game because the season hasn't started.
Mm-hmm.
And we were planning on going to Bolero.
Yeah.
They
have like that night deal that's like $22.95 for unlimited bowling from 8 to 12 p.m.
per person,
12 a.m. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With like shoes included and stuff like that.
And it's pretty sweet. And it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what got into our brains was like, oh, let's look for other deals then.
Yeah.
And then they started out not working out. We thought we had it, but if you got the deal that day, you had to wait 24 hours before you used it.
Yes, that's right.
But anyways, so what ended up happening was that we were on our way to Bolero, but at the last second, I don't know, I felt the weather was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting not too tired, but I did wake up earlier that day.
Yeah, you did.
And so then I was like, man, you know what would hit Ianna? A cup of coffee and just a book.
Yes.
And so then we ended up going to Barnes & Noble.
Yes, at the mall, regular Tyson's Mall.
Yeah.
And that was also the night of this is a side note, but this was also the night of the blue moon.
The night after.
The night after of the blue moon. You're right. It was. But anyway, so going to Barnes & Noble's, we got our cup of coffee, and it's, as you guys know, pumpkin spice already released. So we got our, we really wanted the pumpkin spice cold brew.
I wanted the, what is that called? The
pumpkin spice cream
I wanted the pumpkin cream cold brew.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then because they didn't have it there, because Barnes & Noble's, for my non-Starbucks people, Barnes & Noble's carries Starbucks products, but it's not a Starbucks.
Yeah.
And shout out to my fellow baristas, just because I used to work at Starbucks. And literally just earlier that day, my sisters and I were talking about caramel apple spice. It's a non-caffeinated drink that even little kids could get. It's their version of an apple cider, and it's just steamed apple juice with cinnamon dolce syrup and whipped cream and caramel sauce. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I ordered that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be perfect because there's no caffeine. I can actually go to sleep, even though I'm sure I was so tired I didn't have any trouble, even if I did drink caffeine.
Yeah.
And so we got our drinks, and then we were walking around, and our favorite genre, our favorite genre to look at was the personal development and health and it goes into health and wellness too.
It's called self-help. Yeah.
Self-help, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so what did we end up doing?
Yeah, so what we did was okay, we were looking at books for a while, And I don't know. I think the plan to begin with was to buy a book each, right? Because I mean, it would have been the same price as going to Bolero.
Right.
And but I had this idea all of a sudden was like, hey, you know what we should do since we've been looking, you know, and it was all interesting.
Yes.
But I was like, you know what? How about I pick out a book for you and you pick out a book for me? Just
Yeah.
based on like what you think would help us the most and what would be most interesting to us. And
Yes.
so then I gave us each other, what was it, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes at
Yeah.
most?
It was like 10 minutes max.
Yeah, especially because we only had an hour there.
Yes.
And so
We
then
were about to close at 9.
exactly. So what we did was we did that and we sat at a table and
Mhm.
then I said, "Let's read it. You could start from anywhere for another 15 minutes." And
Yes.
by the end of it, we have to show each other something interesting that we found in that book.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
man, that was a lot of fun because the book that she pulled out for me, I was like, "Oh wow, this is really good."
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
remember the name of it? I
Mm,
just remember the topics of ours, of both. I
yeah.
don't remember like what the actual names were. Mine was something to do with time management.
Hmm.
So I'm so glad he gave that to me because um that was one of my challenges or one of my hurdles to get through. And currently I am hopping over it, but at the same time,
Nice.
like I'm not out of the woods yet. I still need to like be consistent.
Right. And
Um,
that'll come.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then I don't remember what I don't know what you got from me, but it was so dynamite.
It was on the topic of
Yes. It was on the topic of the uh what was that?
like not setting boundaries, but
Yeah.
like doing it not for other people, like for
Yes.
yourself.
Yes. It was learning to say no to others, to say yes to yourself. And before I give away the nugget in that book,
Yes.
what would you rate that date?
Oh, that date was like a 9.5.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I love doing because it was the perfect balance of like something we're both interested in,
Yeah.
something new and exciting,
Yeah.
and then something like there was like a little bit of a surprise, so like
Uh-huh.
a little edge to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it also just kept you like cozy,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
with the drink, even though that wasn't what I was expecting. Like, I'm really glad that like we still got the drink. And
Exactly.
that was literally only like where I took the points off because I was like, like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not holding Starbucks standards right now, but that's okay.
And they ran out of the pumpkin cream cold brew. They ran out of pumpkin at like, I think she said 10 a.m. I'm like, bruh,
Yeah.
what?
And they just got it like 3 days ago.
Yeah, crazy. Anyways, but what does put it at a 9.5 for me too is that as soon as we got out, we saw how huge the moon
Oh
was.
my gosh, it was magnificent.
I was blown the night before because I was out there with my camera.
Like ready.
Yeah, trying to capture it, but it was too cloudy.
Mm-hmm.
But the next night, that night that we went out of the Barnes and Noble and out of the mall,
Yeah.
we were on that bridge to get to the garage, and we literally saw it popping up from behind the apartments on the other side of the highway.
Oh my gosh,
And
it
I
was
was
so beautiful.
I was like, wow. I'll put it up on the for my video people,
Yay.
but yeah, it won't do it any justice. If I had a telephoto lens, one that could a lens that could zoom in, it would have
Okay.
been nicer. But you could at least see like, okay, it's a big dot in
Yeah.
it's a big dot in the sky. I could tell what they probably saw.
Right.
But going back to that nugget that I mentioned earlier, that I was going to mention, is, and it ties into the decision we made from going to Bolero
Mm-hmm.
and instead going to Barnes and Noble.
Yes.
And that would be to follow our authentic selves. And how do you do that, right? It's been one of the questions that people have asked themselves for years, decades, you know. And what I loved about the book that Ianna picked for me, there was this one line that said, the way to know if you're going to say yes or no to somebody, for an event. Because what it said was like, yo, a lot of you go to an event, go to a thing that you don't really want to go do because you never really ask yourselves, do I want to go because I feel obligated or because I really want to go?
Right.
The easiest way to find out is there's only one or two questions, one or two answers.
Mm-hmm.
It's either straight up no, like no, I really don't want to go. And if you're saying to yourself, maybe, but maybe because it's them, again, it's no. But the only way that you know for sure if it's something that you want to do is if you say, heck yeah, I want to do that. If the answer is not heck yeah, and she used a different word, but we're not trying to cuss,
Yeah.
and it's not that bad, but if it's not a heck yeah,
Yeah.
then don't do it
Exactly.
because you're literally only doing it to please that other person. And that is how we come into our authentic selves.
Yes.
Is by saying to yourself, yo, do you want to spend another hour on TV? Or do you want to read that book?
Right.
Do you want to go to that party? Or do you want to go to a painting class?
Right.
And if the answer is heck yeah for the painting class, then you go to that.
Exactly.
Stop giving in to, social pressures of this is what I'm supposed to do. This is how I'm supposed to feel about this. And just do you.
Exactly. And then our like little disclaimer is yes, not everyone wants to wake up and go to work. And like that might not be your heck yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now that you know you don't want to be there or go there,
Mhm.
like what are your options? If it's stressing you out and like to the point where you are no longer mentally sane, you need to make some changes,
Yeah.
like for sure.
Yeah.
Because there are always other options and other routes. And even if you think that you're not qualified for anything else, I promise you, there's other jobs that you are qualified for that does not risk or have the expense of your mental sanity and everything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the examples
Mhm.
that I could give you guys too is that one of my very good friends, we've mentioned him before, but usually I'm down to hang out to go do whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's just days where they go watch a fight for UFC and I'm not too into that. I could watch it, but like I said, is it a maybe or is it a heck yeah, I want to go watch?
Right.
And then sometimes with the boxing fight or with the UFC fight, something like that, unless I really know who's fighting, then I'm like, yeah, I could pass on that.
Mm.
Because tonight I either want to watch my show.
Yeah.
Tonight I just want to play my game.
Right.
Tonight
Fill
I
your
just want
cup
to
up.
focus on my yeah, exactly, to fill my cup up, to edit my videos.
Mhm.
And they could easily say, I mean, what the heck is wrong with you? Why don't you ever want to go when we're going to do this?
Right.
But they never do. One, because I know who I am. I
Yes.
know who to associate myself with.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to associate myself with people that are like shaming me,
Right.
that are like saying, yo, why aren't you going out here? Come on, let's
Exactly.
go. Come on. What are you doing? Stop
Right.
being a loser or anything like that.
Yeah. There's no judgment or like shame on what you choose to do.
Exactly, because part of being your authentic self
Mhm.
is not only so that you can take better care of yourself, but it's so you let others know not to treat you a certain way.
Mhm.
Because if you're not being your authentic self and you're letting yourself be persuaded to do this, that, and the third,
Yeah.
then people are going to know this person doesn't stick to what they say. So if I
Exactly.
want them to come with me, whether they want to go or not, I can drag them out. I'll just be able to push a couple buttons and they'll be mine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what is so crazy? There are some people that have lived a majority of their life, and I can speak on this because I was one of them. people pleasing
Mhm.
to the point where they don't even know what they want.
Right.
So turning it on myself, like I was such a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And one of the books that I did get from another bookstore that we went to this past weekend
Mm.
was called Empath. And it was just describing what an empath is, the difference between an empath and a highly sensitive person versus, no, just, yeah, the differences and explaining what an empath is. I think it's called like the empath experience or something like that. And I love that it put more words to what I was feeling in the sense of, because I was a people pleaser, because I can feel other people's like emotions like to that extent of like if I saw someone fall and like actually hurt themselves, like I would like cringe because like my body would feel that. Growing up in high school and everything, I was able to like just like fit into like so many different groups, but I didn't have like that niche group. And I've said this before, but in the book, they explained that as an empath, because you can feel so many different things, you're kind of like a chameleon. So like you can adapt to the different social cues of the social group that you are in. And then it further explained it. And it was like, because you're doing that though, yes, you don't want to rock the boat and you don't want to be confrontational or anything. But at the same time, you, in doing so, of adapting to other people, are not actually expressing yourself fully. Like, do you actually want to hang out with these people, or are you doing it just to fit in? And to bringing it back to the topic, to live your authentic life, you're not born to fit in. Yes, those like cheesy quotes of like, you were born to stand out and all these things. But it's true. Like when you really are being fully and completely honest with yourself, you are not conforming to other people's quote unquote perception of you. You are just there being your authentic self and loving it in the sense of the sun doesn't ask permission to shine. The sun just shines and it just radiates. And so when I heard that saying this past weekend, I was like, oh my gosh, like all of the pieces were clicking together. And I was like, when I am like my true authentic self, I don't ask myself or filter myself through, okay, I can be happy, but like, let me like tone it down or something. Like, no, when I'm actually happy, like you could see it on my face and you can feel it.
You radiate.
Like exactly. Like, I love that word. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's how I use my empathic abilities. Because not only can I feel what other people are feeling, but I can get them to feel that excitement too. That's how like I love stepping into the teen center and being like, hi, like I see you, like how are you? Like how was your summer? And like I'm actually fully engaged and looking at them to the point where they actually feel heard. And like, yeah, I might ask them like a couple times, like, okay, what was your name again? But like at the same time, like because they know I'm actually interested in learning more about them, they're like, it starts with a C, and like then we'll play a game of like, okay, is it Charlie? No. Okay. And like we'll just keep going. But like that's how I know I'm being my authentic self and loving it when I make the other person feel like they're
included.
They're included and like important.
Valued.
Like, yes, everyone wants to feel valued. Like you can clearly tell when people are like not filling that side of their cup up. So it's like, okay, like if I know that that's like part of my gift, like let me add to it. Let me share it. So,
I love that. When you ask someone, why aren't you being your authentic self? It could be one of two reasons. One, they don't want to step on any toes. They want to let other people also shine. So, and they think in order for them to shine, they need to dull down.
Yes.
Or two, they could just sincerely be scared to let themselves shine because they don't even know who they are because you've never really practiced being yourself. You've always just practiced being someone that people expect you to be.
Mhm.
And it's impossible. You can't know what they think of you, right? And even so,
Exactly.
stop trying to conform yourself to the thoughts of other people. Stop trying to live the life that you think that they think you should live. I think
Mhm.
that's a dogma. I think that's what that means.
Oh.
But going back to the first one is I don't want to shine because I want to let other people shine.
Yes.
I've struggled with that before. You know,
Okay.
I've struggled with both, honestly. But especially when I was going to church, I remember, because I was a teacher and because I was speaking to new people all the time.
Mhm.
So I really felt my most comfortable there.
Okay.
And I felt like I could talk to anybody. I feel like I could talk to you, her, him, anyone and everyone.
Yes.
But sometimes when we were in a group setting, I really tried to stop talking. I really tried to stop talking so other people had a chance to talk. But you know what
Mm.
sucked is that I did that and no one talked. So then I'm like, bruh, what the heck? You know?
Oh, I got you.
And sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes you really need to shine even brighter so that they can also be inspired.
Mhm.
Now here's the thing though, because it's kind of true that if you shine so bright, no one else is going to like want to compete with that. But when you are comfortable with yourself, you have to allow others to shine with you. How? Not by dulling down,
Mhm.
but by extending a hand, just like Ianna does with
Mhm.
those kids that barely talk, that she wants to make them feel valued. She almost forces them to speak, not by saying, "Hey, talk to me," but by
Right.
like, "Hey, Casper, how you doing today?" You know what I mean? "Hey,
Right.
Charlie, what's going on? How you feeling?"
Mhm.
"Good." "Yeah, what's so good about it?" I went to, I had a good dinner last night and we went out with my parents last night. "Oh, where'd
Mhm.
you go? That sounds like a
Wow.
lot of fun. Tell me more about it."
Mhm.
Instead of dulling down, making yourself small just
Mhm.
to let others be, feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And you know what sucks the most is when you do that and then they take you for, they step on you because they're like, "Oh, they're going to allow me to step on them, so I'm going to do it."
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that just like your confidence level just gets hit
Yeah, it gets
once
hit
that
hard.
happens. Yeah.
So don't do that.
Mhm.
Just keep shining. How? How do I find my authentic self? How do I allow myself to shine? So you practice it. How? By asking yourself every time, being conscious. Just like we said last week, take the pause and become aware of your current situation. Think about what you're going to do next. Are you going to do your next move? Are you going to make your next move just because you've always done it or because it's something that you really want to do?
Yes. I think on that note too, this is like a really like side note, but it's relatable.
Yeah.
So there was one um award ceremony. I really can't remember any of this. But there was one award ceremony when Kim Kardashian and Kanye West were still married.
Mm.
And he did not dress up so that she could shine. He
Mm.
didn't want any of the light on him. He just wanted it on her. I think he was like returning the favor because at one point when they were dating or something like that, before they got married, um, he was invited and she was her plus one, his plus one or something like that.
Mm.
And don't quote me on that, by the way. I really don't know.
Right.
But the point is, he dulled himself down
Yeah.
in order for her to shine. And that's not
The way to do it.
that's not the way to do it. And that kind of, two things about this. One, clearly you already said, like, if you want to shine, if you want others to shine, you don't dull yourself, you bring them up.
Right. Exactly.
And then two, when you are shining very brightly and you can tell that that your light isn't shining as bright as you normally know it radiates,
Yeah.
you me I will speak about myself.
Yeah.
So I have been in rooms where I wasn't shining like the brightest,
Yeah.
and I was reminded that that room is at max capacity of light. And I was like, ooh. So that just encouraged me and inspired me to like find another room to take up more space that I can fill and hold. And I was like, I love that scenario because that made me realize like I'm making myself small at that point.
Yeah.
And like, that's not me living in my authentic self anymore because I know I am not a small, like, I'm short, but like physically, like, yes, I'm small,
Yeah.
but personality wise and like everything else, like, I know I'm a bigger influence than I look.
Oh, 100%.
So that was just like a reminder for me to like not get content and not get complacent with where I am and continue to be like that go-getter that I know I was when I was younger.
Exactly.
And then another thing about authenticity, I do want people to remember that like being your authentic self, yes, although it may sound cheesy, remember who you are when you were like okay, recall a time when you were like your most happiest. This was like in one of my meditations or whatever, but it was like recall a time that you were most happiest. Remember those feelings. And then as you're breathing in, breathe in those exact same feelings to fill yourself up with the joy. And then try to forget about that actual scenario and just focus on the feelings.
Nice.
And I was like, wow.
That's dope.
Like when you breathe out, let the actual memory go,
Yeah.
but keep
The feeling.
the feeling.
Oh.
As you practice that, I think it only takes like 3 minutes to like fully do that.
Yeah.
As you practice that, whenever you do get into like the stressful situations or the decisions of like, is this a heck yeah or is this a no? Am I genuinely feeling that sense of joy?
Right.
Or am I altering myself? But remember, because we are a self-help and like self-development like process, like not every situation is going to be all fun and daisies and joyful and everything like that. You do still need to grow through the process, but I promise you on the other side and through it, you will have those bits of hope, those bits of joy, and you have to so that you can keep going, so that you can get to the other side. But don't stay where you are and like I said, don't stay complacent.
Yes, through it. Being your authentic self. Why is it important? Why does it matter if what do you mean? This is almost like, no offense to those, but like the hippie stuff, you know, like, oh, whatever, blah, 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 be yourself, blah, blah, blah. A lot of us have goals, right? And a lot of us are willing to sacrifice almost anything to get there.
Right.
But you have to understand that those goals you have, they're a destination, they're an end. And what happens a lot of times is that, and I know a lot of you watching, I know a lot of you listening have gone through this, that once you complete a goal, no matter how big, once you've reached that end, you look to yourself and genuinely say to yourself, okay, but nothing else has changed. Nothing else has, I sacrificed everything to get here,
Mhm.
but I still feel the same.
Yeah.
It's because, man, it's not about the end goal. The end goal is there so we have something to aim for, so
Mhm.
that we're not just wandering around life, just doing whatever, getting in trouble for the being at the wrong spot at the wrong time.
Right.
Shout out to Jesse Pinkman on Breaking Bad. But a target, that's what it is. It's a target to aim for.
Mhm.
And once you get close to that, put another target, right? So you
Right.
don't stop. But what truly matters is how you're getting there. If you're just if you're saying to yourself, I want to lose 50 pounds, but you're literally starving yourself every day, throwing up, going to the hospital, what's the point? Because even if you get there,
Are you gonna maintain it?
yeah, you're not even going to maintain it. And then how are you going to feel about yourself? Bruh, if you're starving yourself every single day to just lose those 50 pounds,
It's
do
not
you,
worth it.
how well do you think you're going to feel?
Mhm.
Are you going to be jumping over the moon? Be like, yes, I finally did it. Now my best life is ahead of me.
Right.
That's not how
No.
it is.
Mm-mm.
Usually, what happens to those people that just have that as a goal and that's it, there's no, other like incentive for that,
Mhm.
then you're gonna lose it. You're gonna, I'm talking about gain back those 50 pounds
Right.
because you're not gonna feel satisfied. There's not gonna be this enjoyment out of the process. But when you enjoy the process, instead of saying, I'm gonna lose 50 pounds, by the end of 2023, and instead you say, I'm gonna lace up and I'm gonna go for a run for a mile and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm gonna make sure I buy some nice attire, something that I feel good in, and then I'm gonna hit the road. I'm gonna listen to my favorite podcast and my favorite music while I
Yes.
do it, and I'm gonna release all my stress while I do it.
Mhm.
And I won't be so focused on running the whole thing straight, but I'm going to do it at a pace that I can enjoy it, and then I'll walk when I can't run anymore.
Mhm.
But what happens when you do that is that you start developing this sense of enjoyment of the process. You start to connect with your authentic self in terms of you start to value this a little bit more and you start to fall in love with the process. And the process becomes part of you.
Yes.
We're not born with knowing everything.
Mhm.
There's so many things that you have not tried that I bet you if you did, it would be part of you now. But because you're always just doing what other people want you to do, you're always just going here because they want you to go. You're always saying this because they want you to say that, because you think that's what they're going to like to hear. You're never branching out and experimenting on the things that would actually make you happy, that would actually make you whole. And you just think to yourself, well, it's okay that I never took up photography because it'd just be a waste of time. Oh, it's okay that I never, took up running because I know I wouldn't like it.
Right.
And because you're too afraid to give yourself that time, to give
Mhm.
yourself those moments of either failure or of happiness. But you
Right.
just don't know unless you try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that reminds me of the movie that I watched this past weekend, which was called That's Amore on Netflix. And it's
Mm,
basically um this girl, I'm not going to give like too much away, but basically this girl is going through a life change, and so her mom signs her up for like a couples cooking class or something,
mm,
and the head chef has a nephew from Spain, and he is cooking in the restaurant too.
yeah.
And um the girl that was going through the life change, she was like, I'm not good at this, like da da da. And she just like had like the worst attitude about it. And she was like so forced by her mom to go to this like cooking class.
Yeah.
And then of course the guy that came from Spain to America to like teach the class and help his uncle for like the summer was a chef too, and he loved cooking. Like you could tell he loved cooking. And he was like, yeah, cut the tomato smaller. Like, it's okay. Like put some care into it. Like, you don't have to be so mean. And she's like, oh, like strangling like the
Yeah.
tomato basically.
Yeah.
And he was like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm just not good at it. And she was like, you're good at it. I'm not good at it. And he goes, the only thing we were born to do, oh, she was like, you're born to cook. I was not born to cook. And then he was like, the only thing we were born to do was cry and like eat and cry.
Right.
And then she was like, oh dang, like no wonder I was crying like my whole life, like or like laying down and crying or something like that.
Yeah.
And basically my point is when he said the only thing we were born to do was cry, but he loves cooking so much.
Yeah, and he's really good at it.
Yes. I was like, that is so dope because he still had to learn what his craft was.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's go. Like, he put so much time and energy into something that he loves and received all the information on cooking. And he was like, it's not just heating food up.
Right.
It's, are you putting the seasoning into it? Are you making the food sensational? And she was like, what is so sensational? And he goes, I do want to say this one part.
Yeah.
When he said it's sensational, meaning like all 5 of your senses are consumed through food. So your taste buds, the smell, what you're actually seeing. Is it presentable?
Yeah.
Like you can feel it.
Yes.
Like you can actually feel it. And she was like, you can't hear it though. And he was like, but you can hear the laughter of the people around the table.
Yeah.
You can hear the and the crunches and like everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that, it really is like sensational. And so like sensational. But the way that he just described it in the movie, like I promise I got back to the point.
I know you're good.
For being your authentic self, is your full body consumed by whatever thing and craft that you want to dive into.
Yeah.
So like some people love working out.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that is full body, but are you doing your body, mind, heart, and soul?
Yeah.
Like, are you really taking the time to apply all other aspects into that?
Yeah.
Even if it's like finances, like how much of the finances are you invested in? Like all areas, and like how are you making it fun? Okay, if you're making it fun for yourself, can you make it fun for other people?
Yeah.
How do you want to teach them finances? Which way do you want to go about it? There's so many other things that like you can apply to make it more relatable and enjoyable.
Yeah.
But it always goes back to you, like, how are you being your authentic self through that medium?
Exactly. And we do this, if you're cool with, listening to other people and that works out for you, like you guys have the same interest,
Yeah.
then more power to you. Keep doing what you're doing. But if there's even like an inkling of in you that says, man, there's just something missing. There's just one more thing that I could be doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're by yourself and no one else is around you, do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel like you're doing what you want to be doing, what you should be doing?
Right.
Right. And you won't ever know that if you don't get to know yourself. You keep operating on the needs and wants of others. But what about you?
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, you are a lot more of value to others when you know yourself best, when you devote to your wants and needs most instead of others. Because guess what? Dude, guess what, man? If you keep doing what others want you to do and one day you just decide up and leave, they'll switch you out in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
people that, want to do what others want, they're a dime a dozen. Everyone
Right.
wants to be accepted. Everyone wants to be
Yeah.
liked. Everyone's willing to do whatever it is so that they're included.
Mm-hmm.
You won't find that many people that are brave and courageous enough to stand alone, to do what
Right.
they consider is right, to do what they consider is good, to do whatever they consider that they want to do, even if that's against the status quo. And that's what makes those people so attractive. Like, we're always so attracted to the people that are so firm in what they like and who they are in their own opinions.
Yeah.
Because even if they're wrong, they're still willing to listen, but they're not going to just bend over backwards just to make you happy. And honestly, those are the people we like the most. And I'm talking about not me and Ianna, not just us, but
Mm-hmm.
everyone. You're always more attracted to the people that are willing to stand their ground, to the people that are able and willing to be real, rather
Yes.
than just a fake sheep trying to make others happy when it means sacrificing themselves. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think part of that too, I don't know. I think I'm on like the other side of the coin too,
Hmm.
because I find the most attractive people in the sense of like I connect with a lot of people who are open. Like, yes, you can be real, but like, are you open to hearing and expressing, like hearing other people's like opinion?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then like, how can you hold your ground? And I think I'm definitely still learning that part
Hmm.
of like, how am I going to stay open but still be firm in what I believe, but still be open to, okay, maybe I can change my mind.
Yeah.
Maybe you are changing my perspective, but at the same time, my like values and my core are still going to like hold true. But what does that version look like?
But guess what? That's what makes you a leader, because instead of you um, being almost too open to everyone's suggestions and not going with what you say, what you want, if you were to do that, then you would just be like anybody else, and no one would look to no one would look to you
Right.
in terms of a crisis. No one would look to you in terms of we need that person on our team. In terms of,
Mm-hmm.
man, we should bring her along because she'd make this even more fun.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just see you like, okay, well, she's an option, but there's other people just like her. But if you go to the other extreme, and I'm not saying you should go to any extremes,
Right.
but it's better for you to push more to being real, of course,
Yes.
open too,
Yes.
because it's much harder to go from always doing what other people want you to do
Mm-hmm.
to then start finding who you are and start doing what you want
Right.
than it is to you already doing what you want. But then, okay, I'm going to take your suggestion on this one. I'm going to listen to you. That's far more easier, in my opinion, if you're aware of it.
Oh, I
Because
see.
what it is that when you do what you want, you're all the time,
Yeah.
your confidence is high.
Ooh,
But if you're
yes.
always doing what other people tell you to do, and
Uh-huh.
then all of a sudden you want to creep out of that shell, your confidence is so low. You're timid. Your moves, even when you make moves, are so slow and lethargic because you've never done this before.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
like a fish swimming upstream.
yeah, and sometimes when you want to be real, you're like pushing your emotions all the way up to the point where it's not genuine anymore in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like calm. Instead, you're like so fed up with not wanting to do your own thing that you literally shut the world off and you tell everyone's mama off, and you just, you upset everyone because you've pent it up for so long.
Right.
It's like, let me do me. Ah,
Mm.
I want this. I want to eat pizza tonight. You guys always want to eat burgers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And I
do.
know that's a silly like example, but
But it's true.
that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to push the boundaries of doing what you need, of
Mm-hmm.
doing what you want, because then when it's time, you could be like, okay, you know what? I can give your way a shot.
Mhm.
You know? Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for the Too Deep podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Yes.
My name is Adonnis Barrera, and this is
Ianna, Giselle.
You can find us on our Instagram pages with those names.
Mm-hmm.
We're on YouTube under my name, Adonnis Barrera, and we're on Instagram under Too Deep Pod. That's TOODEEPOD.
PPOD.
Oh, PPOD. Don't worry, I'll have it up on the screen for those of you watching. So
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Is there anything that you'd like to say, Ianna, before we head on out?
I think in the process of finding your authentic self, just be genuine when you are doing it, because you can tell. And this is a big tip. A lot of people can easily tell if someone else is being genuine or not.
Oh yeah.
So in the process of finding your authentic self, just look around and see like, okay, maybe I'm trying too hard right now.
Right.
What is actually going to help me move with my authentic self instead of calculated to the point where I'm hindering myself and like blocking myself. When you know you're in your authentic self, when you are in the state of flow. Yeah.
Exactly. Beautiful.
What about you?
My tip would be that be comfortable with being scared of moving in a different direction.
Yeah.
For me, I've tried so many things, photography, podcasting, and I feel like both of them are me.
Mm-hmm.
But even though on our first podcast, I knew that this was what I was supposed to be doing, I still felt so anxious, so nervous. I still doubted myself, even during, be like, yo, Adonnis, what are you doing on this podcast? What are you talking about? And even now, most of you would say like, yo, you're talking about gibberish. Like, you're mumbling, you're stumbling,
Right.
you're not making coherent points. But, it's part of my process, it's part of my journey. And I 100% believe that this is what I want to do and that this is what I need to be doing. But you really do have to get over the fear. And how do you get over it? By being comfortable with it while you're doing it. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it punk you out of doing what you want. Say, I'm going to be afraid while doing it, but I'll do it afraid rather than not doing it and regretting it for the rest of my life.
Yes, I love it.
Oh, yeah. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please leave a review. Leave that review.
Please.
We only have 2 reviews. Come on, y'all.
We have to hear from you guys, please.
Comment for those of you in the YouTube. Just give us a thumbs up. Just like the video. Say something to us. We want to shout you out, like you, Nazir. Thank you again. Thank you again, at the Eunice and Ka. Thank you, Joy, because she told me that she listening to the podcast too. Yeah.
We appreciate our listeners so much. Like we're doing it because we love it, but we're also doing it for you. And if we know who our listeners are, then we can tailor the conversation more to what you guys need to hear.
Exactly.
So please get involved and interact with us.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Stay safe, everybody. Bye.
Bye.